Tonight on the Infowars Nightly News, Darrin McBreen speaks with Nullification, the Rightful Remedy filmmaker Jason Rink. Plus, Alex Jones breaks down the dystopian mindbender Total Recall. Then, drones in the name of public safety, courtesy of a government on a mad power trip. All that and more on the Infowars Nightly News.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Infowars Nightly News. It is Friday, August 10th, 2012, and we begin this evening with a bizarre story that's coming out of Palm Beach. Well, and I'm just going to go ahead and read you the headline here. Cops strip search mom and forcibly pull tampon out of her for possibly rolling through a stop sign. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Truth is definitely stranger than fiction. And now that I've got everyone's attention, well, let's continue. Apparently what happened that, well, this woman was driving with her 2 children. The police pulled her over for rolling through a stop sign. They then pointed a gun in her face, and they asked her to get out of the car. She was then strip searched in front of her 2 children and out in the open where passing motorists could see everything. Then, in a gruesome twist, a female officer forcibly removed a tampon from the woman because the cops were looking for drugs, which the government admits that they ship in. So, and I could see right now the light bulbs over the heads of the TSA right now, and that's a scary thought. Let's hope they don't go there. So, hey, this is a bizarre story as well. This is kind of unnerving, I should say. Potassium iodide tablets are being distributed to Pennsylvania residents living near nuclear power plants. The Pennsylvania Department of Health has given away potassium iodide tablets to anyone living near any of the 5 nuclear power plants located throughout the state. And it's probably just a precautionary measure, but this is what the authorities usually do following a radiation leak. There's no information here in the press release on exactly why the health department has decided to give away KI tablets, but the importance of taking the tablets is noted in the press release. Here it is. Taken as directed during a radiological emergency, KI can help protect the thyroid gland and against harmful radioactive iodine. And we did report last month that the Limerick generating station, this is roughly 20 miles away from Philadelphia, they took one of their units offline due to a possible malfunction in the main steam valve, which they noticed after a rise in temperature. And then another one of the reactors had to be completely shut down. This was just late last month because of an electrical problem. So maybe they're handing out KI tablets as a response to faulty reactors. I don't know. I'm just saying. All I know is I would hate to be living anywhere near a nuclear power plant right now. So, hey, we're going to switch gears and go to a video by Alex Jones as he encountered an unmanned drone on the way to work this morning. Let's check it out.
Folks, Alex Jones here. I was driving to work and saw the drone. Hey, how's it going? Driving to work here, saw this flying over the road. I had Joe Fair ask me if I'd ever seen one run by government, and I hadn't. But there it is. I'm shooting this with my iPhone out here. that?
I'm doing some right-of-way shots for the highway department.
Oh, highway department. Proliferation of drones, huh? Yeah, have you seen our video, drones shot down over Texas? Pretty good. Check it out.
I know that there was a situation over in Mississippi or Alabama where they, some guys were overflying a pigeon chute, like PETA people.
Oh, yeah, and it got shot down, yeah.
But
No, that was great. That was the first drone shoot down, but we did one with our gun show just to simulate it.
And what does something like that cost?
I really couldn't tell you. For my company, I build all my own stuff.
What, about 3,000 to 4,000?
No, you're closer to 6,000 to 8,000, something like that.
Yeah, because we looked into getting, some of the little mini helicopters they've got, but that they use for movie shoots, and a stripped down one was like 10 grand
Right.
to shoot up.
In Austin, I know of about 5 guys that are, full-time in the business, and but I mean, 2 of them work primarily Hollywood, do feature movies and stuff.
I noticed your little guy has a red flashing light, so it's all FAA kosher.
Well,
as long as it's below a certain ceiling, everything's.
yeah, there's really.
It's almost like hobbyist.
Yeah, well, I'm not a hobbyist.
No, but I mean like hobbyists have similar,
Yeah, but I'm a fully insured company.
No, I understand you're a professional. I mean, I just meant like that's probably what.
They're hobbyists that do this, but how many hobbyists are going to throw $6,000 to $8,000 at a?
Exactly. I've never seen one in person this nice.
I'm actually on a contract today for a company, and we're shooting low-level obliques for the 290 right-of-way. Actually, I'm covering all the way from Loop 1 all the way out both legs of the Y. And
what is that, to look at the toll roads, or?
they don't fill me in on what the project. I get a big old map, and they just tell me where they want photos taken.
Wow.
So I'm actually shooting from this location right now, and this map's about 20 feet long.
What do you think about in the news that Texas is weaponizing drones to have them flying around with shotguns and riot control?
Well, personally, I stay on top of it, and I am not aware that that's occurring at all.
Check it out. It just started happening the last month.
Yeah.
Did you hear about them using a Predator drone against people that had a cattle dispute in North Dakota?
Doesn't surprise me that they may have gone over and taken pictures.
Do you think it's good to have the Department of Defense operating in domestically?
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, to me, it's no different than standing on the side of the road taking a picture. I'm just a little bit higher.
But these can shoot over fences, though, privacy fences.
Well, but, I mean, every day Google is flying over those fences, and you can zoom in. I can look at the chairs around my swimming pool.
No, I know, but Google also got caught using those little cars to grab people's passcodes.
Oh, that's pretty crazy. Yeah.
You ought to get your card or something. I should send you the articles where even Texas sheriff's departments have already got them and are already weaponizing.
I'm really familiar with them. I mean, Montgomery County was the first adopter, and they wrecked it pretty quickly. They destroyed a $500,000 helicopter. So,
Hey, but it's just taxpayer money. Why not?
Yeah, that's it. But I mean, the FAA just basically gave all the police departments in February.
I like your hard hat. Land of the free, home of the drone.
But
It doesn't say that, does it?
no.
No.
But,
It's red, white, and blue is the joke.
But,
Have you ever heard me talk about drones, or you even don't know who I am?
Oh, I know who you are.
yeah.
What do you think of drones, buddy?
What do I think of drones?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's a great idea to take people out without, due process. There's probably a lot of good usage for it.
My problem is it takes humans out of the decision soon. They've already got autonomous drones the Air Force and Navy have developed. Have you heard about those?
Yeah, but
Skynet?
Yeah, let's make it extremely clear. This is not autonomous. Well, by my insurance, I fly it line of sight.
Oh, no. I'm not saying you're the Department of Defense. I'm asking you as a drone owner, operator, what you think of it.
Well, I mean, once they get out of line of sight, if the Defense Department has secured drones, maybe it's okay. I mean, there is another level of issue once you take them out of line of sight. is that if they lose GPS link or something,
Sure.
I can fly home.
Why do you think drones are so hot right now?
Well, I mean, they're so much safer than putting a human in the air. If you go look at all the, radio station and television station helicopters that go down annually and kill people and damage things on the ground, it's putting 2 men.
No, I hear you, but aren't we kind of cutting ourselves out of the submarines, the ships, the air drones? I mean, humans, the future won't need us. A lot of top tech chiefs have said with robotics and everything, we're not going to need 7 billion people for the elite anymore.
Oh, that's a good conspiracist attitude to have, but the reality of the world is it's just another tool. It's like if I put it up on a post and held the camera up there.
But I said 10 years ago the TSA would start taking us to private rooms and groping us. It's happening.
Yeah, and I think that's silly. I don't feel any safer for that.
So you can program this to kind of fly itself, but then you can just override it?
Well, as you see it set up right now, it doesn't have autonomous flight capabilities other than if it runs low on battery, it will automatically return before it gets in trouble.
So there's an override.
Right, and it also has if the radio were for some reason to break, it'll automatically come home and land itself where it took off from.
And this camera shoots video and stills?
Yes, this is probably the high end of what people use for this business.
Yeah, I've got 2 of those cameras. They're awesome.
Yeah, Sony Next 5.
They've got high def quality that just 10 years ago that would have cost 60 grand.
And I know that they're using it to defend the borders, and we have multiple predators along the U.S. border.
A whole bunch of them, yeah.
And there's not a whole bunch. We just got, we had 2, and I think they're pushing for 5 right now.
Yeah, but the Air Force, has over 15,000 of them, and they're using them all over the world.
Yeah, but we were talking for the
Sure.
USA,
Sure.
The Homeland Defense doesn't have a lot of them, and they're flying the U.S. border, but they're not looking over your back fence or anything. So,
well, actually, we got footage in Florida where they are. They say police on them are flying.
Yeah, and police are held to a higher level. Fully autonomous drones where they can send them out to a spot, and that's a different thing where the guy isn't seeing it. He's got a
sure,
camera,
pre-programmed.
Or he's flying it by camera, where he's looking into an image and flying it first-person view. But the guys that are flying low-level, under-regulated airspace, I'm flying 400 feet or less. Regulated airspace starts at around 500.
Sure, listen, you're out here getting shots from the highway department. That's understandable. That's a great profession, really neat. I'm glad we ran into each other. I'm talking about police departments are saying we're getting them and we want to weaponize them.
Well, see, I actually know guys in the police departments, and what they would like to do is, before they serve a warrant, is fly around the house and look at exits and stuff like that. Things like...
Couldn't Google Earth do that?
Well, yeah, if you could get them to fly over this afternoon.
Well, that's the thing, though.
Yeah.
Google looks straight down. These can come in and look.
At obliques, yeah.
Yeah, that's I'm telling you, that's the Big Brother aspect. Look at all the surveillance. Look at the NSA admitting it's spying on the American people illegally. Look at all the loss of liberty, all the cameras. I remember talking to the highway department 15 years ago, and they said, we'll never use these for the police. And, of course, they were planning it the whole time. It's a night, but, who's watching the government?
Yeah. Well, I hope there are concerned citizens watching the government.
And we just reported last month how the Department of Homeland Security has announced that they will be using drones for our public safety. Janet Napolitano said they will be used for what they are calling situational awareness in large public safety matters. Meanwhile, the FAA is on record. They are saying that they estimate that there will be over 30,000 unmanned drones patrolling America's skies by the year 2020. That's 30,000 drones. And meanwhile, police departments all across the country, they are buying unmanned drones left and right with the help, I might add, from the Department of Homeland Security. And make no mistake about it, they want to spy on the American people. They want to spy on you and me. And check this out. The DHS has also given the green light to deploy the Shadowhawk mini drone helicopter. Actually, Marcos, that's it right there. I'm pretty sure that's it. If you pause that video, That's the Shadow Hawk. That's a combat drone that was used in Iraq and Afghanistan, and now it's patrolling the skies of America. And the Shadow Hawk, it could tase you from above. It comes equipped with two 12-gauge shotguns that are mounted on it, and it even has a grenade launcher. So that's what I call a militarized drone. And it's battle-tested, folks. Like I said, it was deployed out there in Iraq and Afghanistan. And now it's even out here in Montgomery County, Texas, because I know the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office just recently purchased one. So, but that's, according to Janet Napolitano and Homeland Security, it's for our safety. Rest assured, we're all safer because of these drones. And speaking of Janet Napolitano, we have a developing story right now. This is actually one of the biggest stories in the country right now, as a federal lawsuit against Janet Napolitano, where they're alleging a Homeland Security employment discrimination against straight male agents. And for more on this, we're now joined by Alex Jones, who's going to break this down for us. What's going on with Homeland Security?
Well, what's happened, basically, and it's very obvious, is that all the top positions have been filled by many women who don't even have any law enforcement background at the Department of Justice and Homeland Security, who are friends, special friends, Gawker and others are saying lesbian friends, of Janet Napolitano. And hey, so if Elena Kagan's a lesbian, and if Sotomayor is a lesbian, and if all these people are lesbians, as some say they are, and if the head of Homeland Security is a lesbian, that's that issue. But when they set up cults where you have to be a lesbian to work for them, that's a problem. And that's basically where this lawsuit's going, where men would have, all the senior men would have all their stuff put in the bathroom and basically told to go to hell. I can't even read here on air what these men are saying.
I'm actually glad you're doing the story, because that you're covering it more than I am, because, I mean, I read some of this, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to read this.
Well, I mean this is somebody that since they got control of Homeland Security, has TSA drag 3-year-olds off to closed rooms to have weird men strip search children. Yeah. So, I mean, they're hiring criminals on purpose. They do a background check now to make sure you're a criminal. And it's come out in the news they're hiring all these criminals, rapists, pedophiles, defrocked priests. And you're like, well, why? It's so crazy. Because for these weirdos, it's the domination.
We've had people that work for the TSA call into the show and even tell us that very same point.
Well, people that are over the hiring. Yeah, but it's also in the news. So when you read this, you know, they would say alleged, but it's a bunch of men. And they're going to have the witnesses. It's all going to come out. And this just fits into the MO of, like, Bill Clinton raping countless women. He even settled lawsuits over it.
Who's filing the lawsuit?
Well, it's a senior officer, but they're talking about a whole bunch of men that are going to be basically signed on later as plaintiffs and witnesses, and he was supposed to get the head job. The names, it's all up on the site. It's all there in the news. New York Post, New York Daily News, Associated Press, Politico. They're all reporting on this, that these women were put over them. But if you expand into these areas, this is the type of activity we would expect from these power-drunk type of people who would be trying to launch these different types of operations in this country. In fact, I can just read here from some of the articles. This is out of the New York Daily News. Janet Napolitano run Homeland Security, treated male staffers like lapdogs. Actually, treat a lapdog pretty good. I don't know if this writer has ever had a lapdog. It's the opposite. Federal discrimination lawsuit charges. James Hayes Jr., who now is New York's top Homeland Security cop, claims Napolitano filled top spots in D.C. with two of her gal pals who were bent on tormenting male employees. And it goes over things I can't say here on air, but that would fit into a pattern that we've seen from these power-drunk women who, quite frankly, I do think a lot of this is genetic. If you look, they all look alike, even the different races of women that are in this guild of this particular group, and they pretty much act the same and do the same things. So, I mean, I think there is something genetic to all of this, or perhaps it's in the food and the water, but these are like beyond macho women. They can leg press 600 pounds. Well, yes, like the former Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright.
That's right, that's right.
So it's goblin-like, but ruling us. And again, they know what they're doing, and they have a hunger for power. This fits into their MO because, you know, let's say these men and these witnesses they're going to call, let's say this isn't true. I mean, whether they're lesbians or not, that's a non-issue here. You know, the point is that they do grab children and strip search them in public and put their hands in the pants of Miss USA until she cries. They do rip colostomy bags off people. They do drag people to private rape rooms where they're physically raped with people's hands. And this is what they're selling us. So these are dominators. These are horrible criminal creatures who also have legalized all the illegal aliens, basically, and give them fake tax ID numbers to steal people's identities. That's in the news this week. I mean, this is a criminal group. Over ICE, they've just completely gotten rid of border security and are now using it against the American people. So this is a lawless group of crazies. People ask, you know, why do people rob banks? Well, it's where the money's at. Well, crazies that want power, why are crazies in power? Because that's where the power's at. And they just want to do this. So this fits the overall MO, and I believe these reports have serious credence. This guy's very senior. He's in there now, and all he's asking for is the pay he would have missed if he got the promotion he was due. Because he and others are saying, look, it'd be one thing if they were even a former cop or somebody they put in there. These people had no experience except it's being reported by Gawker and others that the word is they're special friends of, well, we all know who. So, you know, there it is, her own little party palace, similar, I guess, to Kim Jong-il's party palaces in North Korea. What do you think about this, Darrin? I mean, Darrin, there seems to be no end to these people. Well, what's your take on this?
Once again, truth is stranger than fiction. I mean, we're finding out now that Napolitano's handpicked Immigration and Customs Enforcement Chief of Staff, her name is Suzanne Barr. She's also mentioned in this lawsuit, and it also alleges that she demanded sexual favors from the 3 top ICE special agents. The article goes into a little more detail about the sexual favors than I care to talk about right now. But,
and again, that fits the MO of these Herman Goering type people. It was a way to humiliate them. They didn't want the sex. Yeah. It was that I'm going to harass you the way these type of women think men harass women, even though most men don't act like that. So it's very, very sick.
Well, and the senior official, he was the top guy in New York. He's the top Homeland Security agent in New York, who's launching the lawsuit. Exactly. Yeah.
And he says he's got all the witnesses lined up.
Yeah.
But look, Bush was bad. TSA though didn't start all this and all this other stuff until these people got in, and they're causing revolution in this country. But it is because they're perverts. It is pedophilia. Top psychologists, top police, criminologists. I've read the codes. When they grab a 3-year-old and go in their pants, it's pedophilia. They're doing it at the airport it's happening right now. I've witnessed it at the airport. They now drag you to, they say, hey, don't complain, we're going to take you to the private room. People died in those private rooms. And let me tell you, I've been there. I've had them do the pat down. I mean, this guy was a radio listener. He said, this is my privilege, you're not going to fly. I had to get back home. And I went through it, and he was smacking and oohing and ahhing while it went on. I mean, again, normal people are into, you know, the woman or the man or whatever being into them. But with these types, it's about forcing it. It's about the power.
Exactly, but they're expanding. And if people think it's, those people, it's all about domination. But I just keep thinking about the expansion of the TSA, you know, and how this is going to go to airports, train stations. And these are the type of role models, if you will, you know. I mean, if it's okay for Homeland Security, the tops at the Homeland Security to behave in this fashion, then obviously, you know, the standard TSA worker, you know, they're going to do the same thing. So.
And I have seen articles just today, but I see them all the time, where police are now doing this. Because if TSA does it, it must be okay. Did you see the article out of Florida where they pulled the mother over with her kids? No drugs, nothing were found, and they pulled the tampon out of her in front of her kids.
She was also strip searched on the side of the road in front of traffic.
Yeah, I mean, this is the new America. Where this is going on.
Yep.
But again, this is the religion of these criminals, is total and complete domination. As you said, truth is stranger than fiction, Darren.
All right, shifting gears, let's talk about your movie review. You went and saw Total Recall?
I did. It's been out for a week or so. I liked the Schwarzenegger edition of it. I'm a big fan of Philip K. Dick, and so I've read the book it's based on. This is a pretty good movie overall. It kind of went on and on with the action sequences, but I'd have to give it 2 thumbs up, but I'd give it about an A- overall. Whoever made the new Total Recall really has their handle on where the globalists are trying to take us. I mean, you'd think it was Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement, that, of course, is nonfiction based on what the globalists actually have to say. So, attention, folks, you are about, am I looking at this camera or that camera? Yeah, I'm looking over here. You are about to get, well, I had never been in this interviewee seat, so I'm just getting used to this. You are about to get some spoilers. So, spoiler alert here right now if you're going to go see Total Recall. Now, let's go ahead and break this down. There are 2 powers left in the world, one in Australia, one in England and Western Europe. The world population has been reduced by over 90% in a giant global chemical war. There is a corporation that rules the British Anglo-American Federation. They're underground. There are a few areas where people can live outside the chemical weapon area, but they're like the slaves. And the elite underground at the corporation run by Copenhagen, they want to kill the humans on the surface. And so they have been, in the name of security, Copenhagen has been staging terror attacks, Darren, on the surface and below to blame it on the rebels that really know that he is a corporate fascist. Because life is so dreary and humans are being replaced by machines, they go to a place called Total Recall to have their memories replaced with being movie stars and stuff like that, kind of an artificial matrix thing, kind of like we watch TV and fantasize. So it's a very sophisticated film. I mean, the narrative, what it covers, is world class. Totally blew me away. And so it's all basically Bill Joyce, why the future doesn't need us. The elite want to kill us. They've got life extension technology now. They want to reduce the population down to basically nothing, even though it's already been reduced by 90%, and they are replacing humans with synthetic police androids, ground drones, who are being brought out because of, again, security needs, because of the staged terror staged by the corporate government, the corporate fascist government. They've got body scanners everywhere. They've got behavioral manipulation. So you can look at it 2 ways. Either they're warning you in this film or they're acclimating everybody, because it's body scanners everywhere, total police state, SWAT teams with the robots, giant armies of robots, Copenhagen staging attacks on himself to roll them out and kill the humans on the surface. He's claiming the bombings are being carried out by this federation that's more free, based in Australia, and that's Asian-dominated or Chinese-dominated. So, again, he's the evil white guy. So there's also that narrative to it. So it operates on a lot of levels. There's a basic mind control level to all this about compartmentalization, which does come from the original PKD book written in the 70s. They get extremely sophisticated. It deals with a lot of other levels. It's just, this is an amazing film if you want to know what the globalists actually have planned for us. But seeing that drone out there this morning, and the fellow I was talking to being compartmentalized and understanding submarine ships, spacecraft, aircraft, jobs, everything's being replaced by machines. The globalists have decided we're not needed. Human life's always been cheap, but now it's actually a negative for the globalist. That's why they're gearing up a panopticon digital police state control grid. By the way, the robots they have in this are actually what the Japanese and U.S. governments and corporations are developing. The combat robots, the police sentry robots, are actually the model of what they want. And so this isn't 60 years in the future. This is 10 years in the future, because everything is rolling out so fast that they're now getting us ready for the 30,000 armed drones, all of it. And they've got air drones as well. So that's basically it. You know, I wrote notes because I didn't know I'd do a full review here on Alamo Draft House, little order cards, you know, the great national chain that started here in Austin. And there's a lot of other points, but that's basically it. You have the underground corporate government staging terror attacks on those on the surface to blame the domestic group and their foreign enemies to take freedoms, and their final goal is to exterminate basically almost everyone. There's been a global cataclysm because of the countries warring with each other. It is pretty darn thought-provoking, to say the least. It is a dystopia. It is the dystopia that the controllers are trying to bring us into.
Well, Alex, it sounds like Minority Report meets 1984. I'm definitely going to have to go check it out. So
yeah, and give us your take on it, because I mean, there was a lot more that I haven't even gotten into here because I was writing notes in the dark.
Sure. So, yeah, I'll go see it this weekend, perhaps. Hey, thanks for coming in.
Hey, you bet. By the way, we've moved your stuff to the bathroom.
Oh, is Janet there?
Well, she lives in the toilet bowl. But she doesn't come out until about midnight.
I'm afraid to go in there. You shouldn't have. See, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight now. It's going to.
Actually, you can tell your kids if they're not good. Janet Napolitano comes out of the toilet bowl.
Oh, I like that angle.
She's like Mrs. Hankey.
Yeah.
You know, from the South Park.
Yeah, he's on to something.
You know, you shouldn't defile Big Sis.
Yeah.
Hey, but if Big Sis is moving guys' stuff to the bathroom and doing all this, isn't that a good thing?
Well, you would think.
I mean, she's hiring known criminals to abuse our children. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe that's good. Maybe the fact that they hired the head of Penn State who protected Sandusky to work at Homeland Security. Maybe we're the bad people.
Well, maybe.
You know, Pentagon now is running Al-Qaeda. I mean, maybe because you don't support Al-Qaeda, maybe I should have you arrested. I'm sorry, what were you going to say, traitor?
I don't know. I'm an extremist, so I don't know. I don't know if you should be talking to me because, according to the FBI and Homeland Security, I am an extremist. Just going to warn you. Just want to let you know.
Well, I stand by Janet Napolitano. Right. And I think nothing but women with short haircuts and weird little gray patches should run everything. They already run the Supreme Court.
All right, well, did you get that quote? We're going to run that as a headline.
And I think they should shut down Chick-fil-A nationwide for even having an opinion. What do you think this is, America? And I'm starting to like the fact they're shutting down gardens nationwide.
Yeah, well.
I'll get you and your little dog, too.
Right.
Maybe I am. Hey, maybe I'm Janet Napolitano.
Hey, what was that?
Was she on screen? Hey, if you can't beat her, join her, McBreen.
That's right.
I think it's a new style to have like a little gray right there. Oh, look, she's going to give birth. Oh, to a TSA child molester. Oh, but don't think you get away with her so easy. There we go. Okay. Man, this is fun, teleprompter free. How do you like teleprompter free news, McBreen?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, you can see I'm just basking in it right now. That's great. So,
thank you, my friend. We'll get back to the news.
All right. So, hey, wait, I look pretty good in your chair. Huh? What do you think? I'm kind of getting used to it.
McBreen, how about 5 nights a week?
No. How about no?
Truth is, McBreen does probably the best job of anybody doing the nightly news here, but we have to twist his arm to do it. Hey, we're getting 6 new reporters in. You can be doing what you love, news packages and back on the street, pal.
And graphics. I want to do the graphics.
You are of all the incredible graphics people, I have to say you are the wizard.
Thank you.
How you liking Austin?
I love it.
Well, in the future, Homeland Security has actually talked about telling us where we're going to live in the country. So maybe you need to kiss up a little bit to Janet Napolitano, or she won't give you that travel cred. Because the Homeland Security now says they're going to control if you can even travel outside your city. That's freedom. And you can't leave the country, the IRS says you can't.
Well, what about, would they let us know what kind of cars to drive?
They're already doing that, and toilets, and light bulbs. But it's for the earth. I mean, Al Gore.
I just hate having to make those decisions on my own, though. So it's kind of nice that someone else, Big Sis, will step in. I mean, that's a lot to think about.
Well, Big Sis's sister or brother was a big star of Saturday Night Live. What's Big Sis's friend's name? Pat. The Bible says the meek will inherit the earth. That's not true. Pat will inherit the earth.
Wow. Man, I've learned all kinds. I have to tell you what, I've learned so much just in the short time you've been here. I mean, every day. You're not actually praying to Pat every night, are you? Well, am I supposed to? I didn't get the memo.
We've already got a shrine back there to Eddie Bear. Wow.
Oh, man.
All right, that's enough, ladies and gentlemen. It's like we got 2 barstool conversations going on here. A bunch of it's inside jokes you'll never get or never know. It's probably best. McBreen, take it away.
All right, crazy like Alex Jones. Hey, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to review and actually talk to the producer, writer, and director of this new powerful documentary film. It's called Nullification, The Rightful Remedy. So we're going to have a conversation with Jason Rink when we return right after this.
Christy Hightower here to give you a quick update on what patriots like you are doing on PlanetInfowars.com. Now, I want to remind you, the point of Planet Infowars is to encourage activist momentum. So if things get you riled up, like for me it's health and eating organic food and drinking defluoridated water and things like that, I mean, anger is going to be your alchemy for change. So utilize this. This is a great tool. Turn it into your inner power. Consider what aspect of the Patriot movement you really identify with and get out there. There are groups on Planet Infowars that will align with your ideas. And if there isn't, create one. We can all attest to how powerful words are. And just for an example, you can look at the disinfo that lamestream media puts into your neighbors and your friends' mind about what these words mean and how they apply. And it's fake. It's something we all fight against. So go out there and re-educate. There's actually a group called Defining Terms, Alex Jones Undictionary. And they actually use words that Alex has said and redefine the semantics of it just for that whole purpose. So go join that group and start compiling patriotic words to redefine it. Also, are you a graphic designer? Do you have cool memes or ideas that you want to get out there and maybe be seen? Join the Infographic War group, and it's actually great. They actually just issued a mission where they're going to have themes, and this week their theme is guns. So if you have something in mind, like the Saiga gun is banned by the ATF, I believe, and things like that you can get out there and put a meme out there and an image. So join that and complete that mission and see your work maybe used on Alex Jones's Facebook or just even within the Planet Infowars group. And lastly, we see all kinds of great articles being written, like political opinions, current news, edible plants, survival 101, all kinds of great stuff. And in fact, I wanted to highlight this great article. It's called Raising Organic Chickens in the City or Country. And this guy is great. He actually goes through, it's by user KK. He goes through and he starts you off with, first off, check your laws, your ordinances. You don't want to upset your neighbor next door for having chickens in your backyard. But then he goes into just the little things you might not think about. Just in a 24-hour period, the sunlight that chickens need is how they produce their eggs. Or make sure the fence is secure. And choose the breed. Who even thinks about those kind of things? I don't. I mean, I'm a beginner when it comes to that. Then he goes into feeding and then sweet success and enjoying the profits of your hard labor. So go out there, join a group, start a mission, complete missions, write articles. We're paying attention. And in fact, we actually want to start bringing you these updates daily or a couple more times a week because we think that what you're doing is awesome and it deserves a highlight. So keep it up. Planet Infowars users, patriots, you guys are talking, and we're listening. So Christy Hightower here for PlanetInfowars.com. Go and join the activist movement. Thanks. Till next time.
Alex Jones here with a message to fellow freedom lovers. The prognosis for the entire planetary economic system runs from bad to worse. The globalist model is to shut down societies and starve patriots out until they acquiesce to the global takeover. That's why we've assembled the most vital and important preparedness items at InfoWarsShop.com. These are items that I did research on, that I personally use. We've got the life straw, so you can turn fetid water into safe water anywhere you go. The K-Tor hand crank generator to charge up key equipment during power outages or out in the field. Strategic Relocation, 3rd edition by Joel Skousen. When Disaster Strikes by Matthew Stein. ThyroSafe, used by Homeland Security to protect yourself during any radiological event. Hand crank shortwave AM/FM radios. Everything that we've researched and found to be the best is available at InfoWarsShop.com, and your purchase makes our InfoWar possible. We're getting prepared. Are you? InfoWarsShop.com.
What do we do when the federal government steps outside of its constitutional boundaries? Do we ask federal bureaucrats in black robes to enforce limits of their own power? Well, Thomas Jefferson didn't think so, and neither do we. And that's because the rightful remedy to federal tyranny rests in the hands of the people and in the states. It's called nullification, and it's an idea whose time has come. And that brings us to today's guest. Jason Rink is the executive director of the Foundation for a Free Society, and he's here to talk about his new documentary film, Nullification, The Rightful Remedy, which is the most comprehensive documentary on the subject of the 10th Amendment and nullification. And he joins us now in studio. Jason, it's good to have you with us today. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Glad to be here.
I'm going to be perfectly honest. When I first was told that I'm going to review a DVD about the 10th Amendment, I thought, you know, I like the 10th Amendment, but I just didn't know it would be as exciting as it was. I mean, it is a very well put together documentary. So I was pleasantly surprised and a little bit embarrassed about how much I didn't know about the 10th Amendment as well. So, and thankfully you're here today to kind of break down this piece for us and tell us a little bit more about the 10th Amendment and nullification. And before we get started, I want to show a clip from the documentary. Okay. Here's a clip from Nullification, The Rightful Remedy on the Infowars Nightly News.
The peace president bombs countries around the world. The drug war rages on. The Patriot Act exists. The Fed prints and prints and prints. Bailouts, mandates, regulations, they never seem to end. When government does not follow the rules given to it, what do you do about it? Do you march on Washington, D.C. to beg federal politicians to limit their own power? Do you go to federal court in the hope that federal judges will limit federal power? Do you vote the bums out in the hope that the new bums repeal power that's been handed to them?
Well, Thomas Jefferson and James Madison both warned us that if the federal government ever became the sole and exclusive arbiter of the extent of its own powers, that power would always grow. Jefferson wrote, he said, a nullification of the act is the rightful remedy whenever, now every single time, the federal government violates the Constitution.
And the DVD is available at InfoWarsShop.com. And with us in the studio right now, you are the writer, director, and producer of the film. Tell us what inspired you to make a documentary on nullification and the 10th Amendment.
Well, I've been interested in the 10th Amendment and the ramifications of the 10th Amendment, how so many of the issues that we're dealing with, the federal overreach, is really just an example of the federal government not obeying the 10th Amendment. It's not an issue of having to pass more laws. It's already been enshrined there in the 10th Amendment. And so I'm the executive director of a nonprofit organization called the Foundation for a Free Society. We sponsored what was called the Nullify Now Tour across this country, where we went to over a dozen cities talking to people all over the nation about nullification, what's happening across the country, how states are using the concept of nullification to fight back against federal overreach. It was during that process that we began to make this film and decided, you know, if we could make just a 72-minute film that concisely boiled down some of these ideas, we could use that as a major activist tool throughout the nation.
Well, like I said, it was a pleasant surprise. It was very entertaining, very educational at the same time. In fact, we're going to play another clip. This one is about the 10th Amendment Center. And when we come back, if you could break down some of the core beliefs of the 10th Amendment Center, if you will.
Sure.
Let's take a look.
The Constitution of the United States. A set of rules to govern the government. Ignored and trampled by both Democrats and Republicans for far too long. So, what do we do about it?
We don't need no stinking permission to exercise our rights.
From the 10th Amendment Center, around the nation and into your ears. Welcome to TRX.
There's a growing movement of people around the country.
Ground zero for the 10th Amendment movement.
The answer to 1984 is
The 10th Amendment Center.
Tell us, what is it?
It's about sticking to the Constitution.
Okay, and again, that was a clip from Nullification, the Rightful Remedy. Break down some of the core beliefs of the 10th Amendment Center.
Well, the core beliefs of the 10th Amendment Center really aren't that different than the core beliefs of, you know, the predominant founding fathers of this nation. You know, the idea that the federal government was created by the states and not the other way around. The people establish and delegate power to the states and then to the federal government. And so, you know, our rights are not granted by government. It's not government that enshrined our rights in the Constitution. The Constitution just, you know, made manifest rights that already existed because of our humanity. We also talk about a core belief of, you know, a government without limits is the definition of tyranny. You know, limited government is the key here. And if the government could just run roughshod over the Constitution, which is the employee handbook by which, you know, they were established to begin with, then that power is going to be a tyranny. We've seen that all throughout history. And so the idea that the states created the federal government, at the end of the day, the federal government cannot be looked to as the final arbiter of what's constitutional, that it can't be its own referee. That's really what's at the core of the idea of states' rights and nullification.
Well, you must be doing something right because you're getting your share of criticism from the mainstream news media. You know, I've seen MSNBC's Rachel Maddow and others, you know, they routinely attack the 10th Amendment and demonize the 10th Amendment on a routine basis as well. That's only when they give it any attention. Usually it's blacked out altogether, but when they bring it up, it's demonized. In fact, we have some clips right now that we're going to show our viewers, and this is an example of the establishment media's demonization of the 10th Amendment. Let's take a look.
The concept is called nullification, or state sovereignty, the notion that states can opt out whenever the federal government tries to exert a power not enumerated in the Constitution.
And as well as being a rabid proponent of slavery, John Calhoun, to that end, championed the cause of nullification. Nullification, the idea that states could and should refuse to follow federal laws they didn't like, that they thought went beyond the powers of the federal government.
If you're a little rusty on the Constitution, here is what the 10th Amendment says. Quote, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. The one little problem with the argument from the Tenthers, as they like to call it, is this other part of the Constitution that's called Article 1, you know, Article 1, quote, the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, to pay the debts, and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. That means it unambiguously authorizes Congress to spend money in ways that benefit the nation. You know, Social Security, Medicare, Veterans Care, et cetera, et cetera. So what are the Tenthers really up to?
The problem with those that are looking to the 10th Amendment for support is that the Supreme Court really offers very little encouragement for these types of claims.
A conservative group called the 10th Amendment Center has been pushing a lot of the anti-health reform stuff, but they put that in the context of nullification, and they're pushing for other kinds of nullification, too.
Ron, most people in their right-thinking mind know that the 10th Amendment is a bunch of baloney.
Since the election of a black president, dozens of states, primarily red states, have flirted with sovereignty, some actually passing legislation declaring sovereignty on what they consider state issues.
Your federal laws don't apply here, Yankees. United States, schmoonited States.
Well, and as predictable as all that is, it's still shocking to see the ignorance and the complicity of the establishment media. What are your thoughts when you see reports like that on television?
Well, you know, I mean, it's pretty much par for the course. And really, like you said before, it's not just the left that attacks it. I mean, the left does, but the Heritage Foundation attacks the concept of nullification. Many of your mainstream media hosts like Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh, they're not even talking about this idea. And the reason is clear. I mean, those of us who understand how the media works is they're both, the right and the left, are both interested in centralizing federal power. Absolutely. That's all they really care about. And so when they see something like states' rights and the 10th Amendment and nullification as a way to sort of undermine that centralization of federal power because they just want to pursue their own their own centralization agenda. Whether it's on the right, it's the military and the police state. Whether it's on the left, it's the welfare state. The bottom line is those media talking heads don't want average people like you and me who are really looking for solutions out there to start thinking, well, wait a minute, maybe begging federal bureaucrats to give us our rights back, maybe that's a flawed strategy.
Sure, sure. And I notice how they compare you to like right-wing extremism.
Sure.
And, you know, of course, Infowars, we're right-wing extremists. We used to be left-wing extremists when Bush was in office, but now that Obama's in office, we're right-wing extremists. Now, how often do you get that comparison a lot? Do they lump you in that category as well?
Well, absolutely. And, you know, you've got the usual suspects, the Southern Poverty Law Center. I'm happy to say that I've been mentioned in a few of their hate watch articles, which I always think is actually a badge of honor because of how wrong they are on what they're talking about. And what a lot of times they fail to mention are, you know, it's our right-wing propaganda, our hate propaganda, but we support marijuana nullification in California, which is typically not a right-wing issue. And so it crosses both ways. And what these organizations like the Southern Poverty Law Center and the left-wing media, what they're really just trying to do is they're trying to make sure that this debate and this argument doesn't go outside the acceptable bounds of discussion in a free society.
Well, and notice how they never use extremism to describe the federal government.
Right,
like
absolutely.
there's nothing extreme about the TSA going down our pants. There's nothing extreme about the National Defense Authorization Act, the Patriot Act. No, we're the extremists.
Right, because what we want to do is we want to say, hey, listen, when the founders put the Constitution together, they put the 9th and the 10th Amendment in there as sort of these guardrails to make sure that things didn't go off track. And we're the extremists because we say, listen, the 9th and 10th Amendment have never been repealed. We still believe that the federal government should obey the employee handbook as it was ratified. And, you know, so that's an extreme position. I guess we're just going to have to not apologize for that.
Well, what happened to the 10th Amendment? I mean, how did we become a nation of collective amnesia and kind of forget about it? It seems like, you know, like I said, I was a little embarrassed about how much I didn't know. How come we don't know about this?
Well, you know, I think it's just been that it's the government school system that doesn't even really teach the Constitution anymore. In fact, if you're a constitutional lawyer, all you study really is case law. You don't really even study the Constitution, the founding documents, what happened at the state ratifying conventions, the discussions that were had at that point in time between, you know, people of differing opinions, between Patrick Henry and Alexander Hamilton, and you know, the idea that all it really takes, I mean, when I read the Constitution for the first time during the Bush administration and the Declaration of Independence, it struck me as I was reading the Declaration of Independence and I said, you know what? Many of these charges that were being levied against King George could be levied against President George.
Absolutely.
How far have we come?
Yeah.
And so I really think once people get their hands on those founding documents, once people start down the path, they become self-educators, they can get rid of the brainwashing they had or what they've heard about nullification or states' rights, how all we want to do is oppress minorities or bring back slavery. They start to understand that that is a false narrative. It starts to unravel in their minds, and we win over the hearts of the American people.
Sure, and nullification was used to fight slavery, you know. I mean, tell us some of the success stories of nullification in the past.
Well, you know, the term nullification really first was brought on the scene with James Madison and Thomas Jefferson during the Alien and Sedition Acts under President John Adams' administration. And what President John Adams did in 1798 was he basically outlawed free speech. He said it's no longer acceptable to criticize the federal government at all. And so Jefferson and Madison said, look, if we can't criticize the incumbents, we'll never have free elections in this nation again. And so what they did was they penned something called the Virginia and Kentucky Resolutions of 1798. What these documents said was it said, listen, the states are the final check on federal power. If the Supreme Court, if Congress, if the President, if they all conspire against the American people and conspire against the Constitution, what's the last resort? Well, the last resort is the states saying, these things are unconstitutional. And so to defend against free speech, in 1798, nullification was introduced. And then during the Fugitive Slave Act in the 1850s, there's a case of the state of Wisconsin refusing to allow southern states to come back and kidnap runaway slaves and bring them back to the South. The Fugitive Slave Act made it a law that said you had to allow them to do that. You had to assist the federal government in doing that. And so rather than nullification being used to support slavery, it was used to undermine slavery by abolitionist states who said, look, the federal government is flat wrong on the issue of slavery, and we're not going to allow them to kidnap runaway slaves and take them back into bondage. We don't think it's right. It's not morally correct. We're going to stand up against that. And you see that happening time and time again.
And how does the mainstream media get that wrong? I mean, come on. I mean, you know.
It's hard to accidentally get it wrong.
Exactly. Okay, what about some current examples of nullification that are being used in present-day America?
Well, I mean, we've seen over the past 15 years anyway, we've seen states stand up against the drug war, which is an unconstitutional piece of legislation. I mean, if the federal government wants to legislate marijuana, they probably need to do it by passing a constitutional amendment like they did with alcohol in the 20s.
Sure.
They haven't done that, so it's an illegal usurpation of states' rights to regulate marijuana. California and 14 other states, I believe, have medical marijuana laws, even though the Supreme Court ruled in 2005 that the federal government can go in there and regulate the growth of 6 plants in your backyard for your own consumption under the Commerce Clause. Those states have not repealed those laws. They've said, you know what, you're just going to have to come and take the marijuana, I guess. And they have. Federal government, even under the Obama administration, has continued to commit the raids on all of these dispensaries.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. We've had the reports here on Infowars.com. They just ignore state rights and just go in there and do it anyway.
Absolutely. And we've seen successes with Real ID. The federal government tried to push through a national ID card.
Yeah, didn't half the states kind of say no to that? I mean, it was like 25.
The federal government keeps pushing the timeline back of compliance, and that's essentially dead. We've got states that have passed Firearms Freedom Acts that said, look, guns manufactured in our states and sold in our states, they are not subject to federal gun laws, period. And what we're seeing now is a real resurgence when it comes to the health care issue and National Defense Authorization Act.
Sure. And are those what you're going to focus on 2013? You think that's what we're going to focus on?
Well, and something to keep in mind is if you want to find out what's going on across the country regarding legislation, 10thamendmentcenter.com has a legislative tracking tab where you can see what states are doing what's passed, what hasn't. And what we find is the 10th Amendment Center doesn't really direct anything from on high. States bring these issues up. They happen at a grassroots level. They start going through the legislature, and this 10th Amendment Center sort of facilitates other states knowing what's going on. So what we're seeing bubbling up is in light of the Supreme Court ruling on Obamacare, states are still saying, you know what, we're going to introduce legislation that says federal agents who try to enforce the individual mandate here in our state, Oklahoma's one that's planning to do it, I believe New Jersey, those federal agents will face criminal action.
Yeah, that's what needs to happen. That's good news.
Absolutely. The same thing with NDAA. You know, the National Defense Authorization Act, the 10th Amendment Center has a piece of legislation called the Liberty Preservation Act, which, again, is states that are going to say, we will not allow federal agents to come in here and to take away the Fourth Amendment rights of our citizens of our state. And, you know, many states are not in their legislative session right now. That's going to happen again in January and February. But we're already hearing the chatter. We're already seeing things happening to prepare for this. And what I want to encourage people to do is now is the time to educate yourself, your liberty grassroots-oriented group, your state reps and senators on the issue of nullification, not once the legislative session hits, but to get these people educated on it. So go to Infowars store right now, buy yourself a copy, buy several copies to hand out to your state rep and state legislator, to your neighbor, so we can get this idea that the states don't have to sit back and take it. We can do something. It's a constitutional remedy that's always been available to us, and it really just takes the education and the willpower, I think, to sort of press forward on this.
Well said. So, yeah, definitely a good idea to pass this out to family and friends. And what about, is there a website that they can get involved in the 10th Amendment Centers at 10thamendmentcenter.com?
Yeah, 10thamendmentcenter.com is really that's the tip of the spear of this. And this is really something that is starting to gain a lot of momentum. We saw it all through 2010, 2011. and the beginning of 2012 when we were doing the Nullify Now tour across the country. People are hungry for this information. People are looking for solutions, and most people will recognize that no matter if it's Barack Obama or Mitt Romney, in 2013, government's going to grow. And the federal government's not going to listen to the people. We've got to decentralize power and bring it back to the states.
Well, the federal government's not going to limit itself. No. You know, and the federal courts are only going to rubber stamp whatever's handed down to them by the federal government. So it's up to us, we the people, to nullify every unconstitutional decision by the federal government and by utilizing the power of the 10th Amendment.
That's right.
Well, Jason, it was great to have you with us today, man.
Anytime.
I hope to come back in the near future, and let's do it again.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that's right. The Constitution of the United States is a set of rules for us to govern the government. It's not the other way around. The government is not your boss. So, hey, once again, Nullification, the Rightful Remedy, it is available right now at InfoWarsShop.com. Highly recommend this to all patriots. Be sure to check it out. Pass this information along to your friends, your family, coworkers, neighbors, etc., and get them involved in the 10th Amendment movement. And that's going to do it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Darrin McBreen. The Infowars Nightly News will return, Lord willing, next Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Central Time. Until then, I hope you all have a blessed weekend, and we'll see you back right here on Monday. Good night.